Hello and welcome to Fintech Impact. I'm your host, Jason Pereira. Before we get started, just a reminder to sign up for the newsletter at jasonpereira.ca. On today's show. Today's show, Alisha Mawji and Zakir Kanji, co-founders of AltruWisdom. AltruWisdom is what's best termed a light financial planning platform for individuals to understand more about how to better improve their financial lives and also find out about different benefits they might be entitled to. And with that, here's my interview with Zach and Alisha. Alisha and Zach, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, you are my first COVID quarantine interview. So whenever this airs, this was done while the world was falling apart, and hopefully everybody hears it. Who's hearing this now is hearing it in better times. So Alisha and Zach, tell us about AltruWisdom.
So AltruWisdom is an online platform that provides Canadians with independent financial education and life advice. We have a lot of curated lessons, powerful tools, and action items for people to follow. AltruWisdom basically aims to get you through life's unexpected events by sharing the practical wisdom of those who've been there before. So we're just an online subscription platform. You sign up, you let us know some life events you're going through, and off you go.
So excellent. That all sounds great and all sounds like you're trying to help people. So tell me about the origin of this company. Where did the idea come from?
Well, Alisha and I, we've been working in the wealth management industry for about 10 years. And through our offices, we've seen a lot of our clients come in with not only investment questions, but a lot of questions around their life events and financial advice regarding their life events. So in fact, like their investment questions are usually at the bottom of their list. They're really concerned about like their life situation and how their finances are going to impact those situations. So we thought we have a lot of clients who come in with these questions, and usually most of the financial advisors that give really good advice around these challenges and situations are conditioning this advice to the asset level of the client. And we thought, you know what, we have a lot of friends and there are a lot of Canadians out there that don't have such high asset levels, who don't really get the advice they should be getting. So we thought in our age, why not use technology to deliver that information to all Canadians, regardless of asset level, so that everybody gets that equitable footing and gets really good advice when they need it.
Yeah. So, I mean, what you're defining there is something that's colloquially known as the advice gap. Now, we can debate where that gap exists, because I don't think it exists on the investment side, because you can open up a robo-advisor account for $1. When it comes to actually getting advice, that there is a gap there. So you're looking to basically provide this through an affordable means of implementation. So first of all, let me commend you on that, because as someone who fights for the ban on embedded compensation and full disclosure of compensation within this country, oftentimes we get we won't be able to help these people if we can't ding them for 7% on the back end. And I keep saying the reason why people think that is because this country has been held back by its compensation models. And if we just got rid of them, entrepreneurs such as yourselves would come up with new ways to help service and better people and provide that service. So thank you for being ahead of the curve on that, because that sort of financial advice and just advice in general around life is something that's valuable, that needs to be more democratized. And we're not going to get there if we just keep on trying to live in the old paradigms. So that's my rant. Let's go back to what it is you do. So I am someone who comes across you guys and basically tell me what the experience start to finish. I'll go to your website. What am I going to see? What am I going to learn? Why am I going to sign up?
Sure. So we're focused entirely around life events. And so when you come in, hopefully at some point you end up on our register page, or you attempt to sign up. And when you do, you're going to be put through an onboarding process. And that onboarding finds out a little bit of information about you, and more importantly, identifies life events you're going through. We're constantly changing our onboarding as well to get to know our customers even better and to be able to serve them even more tailored information. And then once you are finished that, you're presented with this dashboard, and it basically covers the life events you've chosen. We've taken in the information we need to know about you, and then we've presented back a series of actions and steps you can take. And they're organized in 4 key areas. So the first one is a set of checklists. And so depending on the life events you've picked, we tell you different steps you can take through checklists. And so that's kind of like the true north when you come on the site, and you kind of start with the checklist usually. Then we have what we call our wisdom collective. So what we did there is our case studies. And in my opinion, that's one of the best parts of the site. It's all past member stories, which we've changed the names and the details of, or even just past stories we've heard before of how people have gotten through really complex life situations. So we purposely look for stories that have multiple life events in them. And believe it or not, many families have that. And multiple issues, multiple characters. It's complicated. There's feelings involved. There's all kinds of emotions running around. And those are the cases we choose to tell. And
so
we
you
do
have an entire section on COVID crisis support in a couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah. We actually, I'll come back to this in a second, but we actually did start a whole COVID life event because it was just so demanded right away. And it really is a life event. It just happens to be that all of us are going through it together. So that one's been really popular for us right now, of course. But yeah, the case studies are really good because you get to see how somebody else handled it. But then we also guide you to say, if there's anything about this case that's similar to your life, these are the steps you can use to solve it in your life. And here's all the information throughout the site. So it guides them in that way.
So basically, whether they go to initial checklist, which basically is going to guide them through the process, or whether they read the narrative that speaks to them and is very powerful to them, you're still funneling them back to, okay, so this is how you get back to it.
Yeah, exactly. The whole platform is extremely action driven. We're basically always trying to get them to take steps, and the reason we were so persistent on that is because we noticed, first of all, that when we started this, there's a lot of static content out there, and people will read a bunch of stuff, and then in their minds they get this feeling that I've done something and I've accomplished something because I've read an article about it. And in fact,
there's a checkbox section next to there may be a bullet, but it really should be an empty box to be ticked off.
Exactly. It's sort of this trick our minds play on us. And so that's why we're so focused on action. We drive everything back to action. And that's why I like our last two sections. They're more the tools side of the site. So we've got a benefit repository that looks at information that we've taken about you and suggests benefits that you're going to be eligible for. Again, the reason we created this is just born out of our own experience that we would see so many clients in our work that, may be eligible for CPP. They're struggling, but they just won't fill out the forms and won't take the money that's sitting on the table or things like that. Right?
Disability tax credit, where so many people qualify for it have no idea they would qualify for it.
Exactly. And so we're always trying to push them ones that they don't understand or know about. There are federal ones, provincial ones, and also a lot of local resources.
And a bunch of new ones now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. We're even going to put in updates on all of our updates for the EI and everything because it's changing so much right now. And then the last section is probably our most popular, and that's what we call our filing cabinet. So it's basically a document repository. You get to store all your important documents there, but my favorite part about it is we actually teach you about the documents. And so we noticed a lot of our clients would always, when it came time to look at a mortgage, they would look at their paperwork that they had signed and had no idea what they had agreed to or what the terms were. People just aren't educated, and it makes the process of working with professionals really asymmetrical. So you just never know, and you say yes to whatever because they probably know better. So we're really passionate about educating on those kinds of things. It seems boring, but it's really valuable, and it helps people stay very organized.
Especially in a time like this, where people are looking back at their documents and their agreements to see what they're actually allowed to do. For example, with mortgage deferrals, that's something that comes in handy. When you have everything stored in one place and you understand these documents, then you're able to take action. You understand what you're allowed to do. So with the filing cabinet, just to elaborate on that, we're actually building out a standalone filing cabinet app right now, because we think that while we do see the popularity in it, but we do believe that, if it was standalone, if you could access it from your phone and use it as an app and just take a picture of your documents and have them stored and also learn about it, we can really capture a lot of data about the member and then be able to deliver really good recommendations on what you should be doing, and then start incorporating all our checklists and benefits within that. So that's something that we're looking forward to completing in the next couple months here.
Good. I mean, as someone who's hyper digitally organized, I'm often astonished when I go to do anything involving financing or any kind of contractual work or whatever, and I basically get nothing but compliments because they're like, wow, you got me everything in record time. It's like, well, where do other people keep this stuff? I don't understand, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people keep it in their Google Drive or Dropbox, which is really good if you're organized and you can have the right folders. But this allows, it creates a directory for you, so you know where to store it, and it's pretty much organizing your financial life for you, with the ability to share it all with your advisors. So.
There's a tremendous amount of value to that. So let's go through a couple of these examples. This is interesting. So first off, I like the fact that you've done case studies. And I got to tell you, as someone who's written in newspapers on case studies, the ones that people would pick up, the misnomer is they think, you appear in a case study in the Globe and Mail and you're going to get all this business out of it. And that's usually not the case. What happens is that the ones that resonate with a certain type of person, those are the people who call. Like they have literally had people say, you know what, I actually clipped that out because that person was me. And storytelling is such a powerful way of getting people to take action that if you can create a library of that, or if you learn enough about them and you're onboarding to put stories in front of them that speak to them, you're going to enact action. So it's a good method. I want to commend you on that. So let's talk about these actual checklists. Give me an example of one of these more commonly used checklists looks like, and what is the ongoing interaction with this? Like, is there reminder emails? Like, how's this work?
So one example that's very topical right now is the idea of, and we just kind of took some content and recreated this checklist for COVID, but the idea of going to get a mortgage deferral. So right now, we actually just did a poll on our Instagram to see who's even dealing with this, because we know from our clients that a lot of people are trying to. And if you don't know how to do this, it's such a stressful time. And then on top of that, you're waiting on the phone for so long. And if you don't have your documentation ready, or you don't know your numbers of what you can actually afford, and you don't know how to approach this conversation, you're probably going to end up having to call in again. And it's just a really difficult thing for people. So that would be a perfect example of a checklist. So you come in and we just show you the steps. So step 1, look at this, understand what your terms even are on your mortgage and what you actually pay. Step 2, identify what your budget and what your cash flow is going to look like. So do you qualify for EI? How much are you going to get? Do you have any savings? What can that contribute to it? Like, what costs can you take away? Can you cut your utilities for a while? Which things can be negotiated? Number 3, when you're getting ready to speak to your lender, frankly, just understand that what they're going through, and understand that the rules for them are changing every day too. The banks are not giving them clear guidelines on what they can and cannot allow. It's difficult. It's all case by case. So, try to be courteous. And then going from there, we have a list of like really great questions that we were able to ask a bunch of different mortgage brokers on ways you can initiate negotiation. So accepting that you don't have to take the first no that they give you, and you don't have to take the first option they give you, and what are questions you can ask that actually open up that conversation, and then helping you to actually understand what those things mean too, so you know what you're asking about.
So for me, it's interesting you mentioned the change, and that's just not in crisis situations. I've had clients who literally have gone in and been told they were going to get X mortgage, and then 2 weeks later the guy said, "Well, we can't help you anymore." Rules change all the time, and it's not often the person you're speaking to's issue. It's a mandate comes down from on high, and that deal's now off the table, right? So it's important people understand that that's just normal. That's not anything personal.
Yeah. In terms of trying to get people to take action on these steps, what we're trying to do is something with like a checklist like this, is as they're going through each of the steps, whether it's a task they need to perform online, like reading one of our blogs or case studies where they can mark it as complete, or whether they need to go offline and call their lender to figure out if they can get a deferral, those can all be tracked. So if they're stuck on one of the steps, we can see that, and then we can reach out to them to make sure that we can help them, whatever friction points they're going through, we can help them overcome that. So that's where we use the technology a lot, is to try to figure out what the state of our member is, where they're getting stuck, and how can we help.
So how much human interaction is involved here?
So right now, there isn't a lot outside of our current chatbot. So if you're stuck right now, we can see that you're stuck on a checklist on a step. We can reach out to you via email, and then we can start interacting via the chatbot. However, we are testing out a coaching model. So we liken this to, if you're just using the platform, you're going to your gym and you're working out. But if you do sign up for the coaching model, then you're pretty much getting a personal trainer, and we're taking you through the steps of what you need to do, and we're keeping you accountable. Every day we're setting goals with you of what you need to complete and following up. So that's something that we're testing out. We have right now about 20 people on that test right now, and it's going really well. It just, obviously we have to think about scaling it and having the manpower to really make that happen. But I think there needs to be a human element for a lot of people when it comes to this. So whether that's using the chat, or whether that's actually getting people to call in and do weekly check-ins, that's something we need to figure out.
You thought about like some sort of motherly looking like animation that looks very disappointing in you when you don't get
like
your
the
stuff.
paper clip would be nice.
Yeah. Oh, not Clippy. Just do not bring Clippy deserves to be in the digital graveyard forever. But yeah, the equivalent of a like little grandma animation, like, I'm very disappointed in you. Something like that, just to guilt you into it. But overall, good. No, it's interesting, because I think about, you've clearly done the smart work of digitizing. It's interesting. Other models start off with the high touch first and then try to figure out how to make it profitable by digitizing it. You started off the other way around, which is, I think, speaks better to figuring out the model and figuring out where the holes are and scaling it from there. So tell me, so the price tell point, what are people paying should they decide to sign up for your site and your service?
So right now, the quick answer is if we're selling B2C, so you just come across the site and you want to sign up, it's $9 a month. So we kept it a subscription model. partly because we want to remain independent. So we don't want to ever be in a position where we're selling product at the end of any recommendation. We don't mind providing optionality to people if they need it and if we see value in that, but we don't want to be getting kickbacks. That was really important. And so the subscription model helps a lot with that transparency. People understand what they're paying for. That being said, we sell a lot more B2B, and we definitely are happy to adjust that price based on the contracts we get. And we would rather have an organization paying for the platform and the end user using it for free. We find that works a lot better.
So what kind of organizations are you seeing partnering with you?
So it's very much all over the map. So right now we're in conversations with some of the larger financial institutions, but we've partnered with a lot of other startups, specifically other fintechs as well, who maybe their core competency is not really content creation, but much more their technology. And we come in and say, okay, we're going to give you a way to serve your customers that's tailored to them based on certain questions, and then you get up-to-date content. You don't have to worry about it. So that's a really compelling offering. We also,
I was actually going to say offline, if you didn't say this, that essentially, even if you're direct selling, the value of what you've created here is multipliable across every advisor in the country, right? Like there's got to be some sort, you should be monetizing that way as well. And it's interesting, the price point you chose at $9 a month is clearly very affordable, but the fact that you're showing over 450 federal, provincial, and local benefits people could basically benefit from. I'm curious, do you have any data on the payback period of that $9 a month? Because even one of those benefits with more disability tax credit alone, if God forbid someone had that need for that but did have it, just knowing that's there, that pays for you guys like for the next, what is that? So do the math quickly. Let's call it the next 10 years, all in one tax credit in 1 year, right? So I would think you have more than a 10x payback on a lot of cases, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we do. What we find that argument is not as compelling to the end user. For us, it's really interesting.
But not entrepreneurs.
But where it becomes really interesting is on the coaching side, because now it's not only are you having, maybe you'll find that benefit yourself and maybe you'll apply for it, but now you've actually got somebody there holding your hand through that process. And then we tell them, whether it's by a review of your tax return, whether it's through a benefit you apply for, but we are like guaranteeing you're going to get that payback. And so while we haven't said that publicly, that's always our mission in our mind, is how we structure it that way. So for us, it makes a lot of sense why they would want to pay that way. And then also, as you mentioned, like partnering with financial advisors, I mean, that's our origin. And so for us, we built this to help them, because it's very difficult to be able to keep up with all of this stuff in addition to running an investment practice. And
I can absolutely assure you that I do not know 450 provincial tax, federal and local benefits. It's you're right, it is complex. So talking about the digitization, I mean, you have the intake questionnaires, but you just mentioned reviewing the tax return. Is that a manual process still? Have you automated any of that? How's that looking?
Right now it's manual. It's only for coaching customers, not for the average.
If you start looking at how do we use the technology to, for example, the benefits, right? So in our back end, if we are able to mark that somebody is eligible for a certain benefit based on X requirements, we can then pull up another 20, 30 benefits that they would be eligible for. We could also take the information that we've taken from them on one benefit and populate the applications for other benefits. So it really allows us to use that technology to scale how much work we can do based on the information we get from one thing. So the more that somebody's using the platform and the more information that we're getting, the better kind of filtration they're getting on the action items, the benefits, everything else.
All right. So before we wrap up and move on here, a couple of questions I ask everybody before we close off, and you get to both answer individually. The first one is, if you had one wish for something you could change in your company or the industry as a whole, what would it be? And we'll just assume that COVID cure is one of them, but let's just move on to the company specifically.
How long do we get to think about this?
We do edit it a little bit, but not too long.
So for us, I know like one thing when we started this, it was really important so two big things. One is to raise the benchmark of the advice that's being given. So if I could have that one wish, it would be that every financial professional that a Canadian might interact with is already armed with all of this information, because it's difficult to access them. And then you don't even know what quality of advice you're getting at the time, which I hate that happens to people. That's one wish for sure.
More on like the actual individual level, I would want that Canadians have access to information. So anytime they need to make a decision, whether they already know the information or they don't, they're going in with the information that they should have, so that they're at an equal playing field with everyone else. So I don't want anyone to be taken advantage of. And that's why we're doing it.
Fantastic. And the second question is, what has been the biggest challenge in getting a company to where it is today?
Where do we begin?
Biggest.
Yeah. I think for us, because neither of us had a background in tech development, which I think in the fintech industry, usually you see the opposite where people are tech people and then they come in and try to create a financial solution. We're very much client focused, like that's our career background. And we had to learn the tech side. So that's been interesting, really great learning. And we've been able to do it in a really innovative way, which I'm really proud of, but that was a challenge for sure.
Sorry, you also have no misgivings about how hard it is to get convince clients to do things. Because I've often found fintechs just like, I built this wonderful thing. Why aren't they using it? It's just like, you don't know how to work with people, do you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, is that gap between like needing that human connection and still being able to use technology is one of the bigger challenges. The other thing is just, I think what every company goes through is trying to balance everything from hiring to building a product and designing it well to marketing and everything like that. So I think we're lucky we have a really great partnership with a development company here that we work with, and that has helped us a lot with the tech. So yeah, I think scaling and growing is now the next big challenge.
Oh, that's, yeah, most definitely a challenge. So last question is, what excites you the most about what it is you're working on, and what gets you up in the morning to keep fighting the good fight and keep doing what you're doing?
Customer stories, I would say. We see and hear things where people's lives are sometimes thrown so far away from reality with what happens in their finances. And then when we can bring them back, or when the tool can bring them back to that, it's a really exciting moment for us.
Yeah, everybody that comes in that really has a really good interaction with the product and sees a lot of benefit and sees their life progress because of it. It's probably what gets us up every day to keep working on it.
Glad to hear it. Well, you're doing something very positive, and you're to take a look at all 400 and plus number, because I'm actually a little staggered by that. But yeah, no, excellent. So definitely keep up the good work, and hopefully everybody takes some time to check this out. And I wish you nothing but luck, because honestly, this is the need for affordable access to this kind of information is hugely valuable, and not just valuable to you guys, but to, well, not just you guys, but clients at a lower level, but clients at all levels. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
No, my pleasure. Take care. So that was my interview with Zach and Alisha of AltruWisdom. I hope you enjoyed that. And I am most certainly not kidding. I am definitely going to sign up to check out all the different benefits that I did not know even existed, which frankly, no one can at 400 plus. So with that, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you take the time to look at it. As always, I am your host, Jason Pereira. Until next time.
This podcast was brought to you by Woodgate Financial, an award-winning financial planning firm catering to high net worth individuals and their families. To learn more, go to woodgate.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or find more episodes at fintechimpact.co.